So we can see that this pandemic, right, is changing every aspect of the way that we do businesses, the way that businesses is being conducted, right? I remember that in year 2018, I was still, doing this kind of presentation face to face in front of, audience of hundreds of audience in front of them, right? And it's just different, right? Now I'm doing this in my my home bedroom, right? In front of virtual attendance, right? So I can see that actually, I hope that this is the last, pandemic that we ever face in our lifetime, right? Because this is definitely not a good time for everyone. It brought a lot of changes to us, and the only way that we can overcome this pandemic is that we also radically change the way that we do businesses. All right, like for example, we're now using Zoom for this kind of presentation, right? So my topic today, right, is digital transformation starts with data capture, right? Let me start the presentation, right, with these slides, right? And I hope that you can learn something from these slides after I present it, right? If there's any questions, feel free to type in the chat box, right, that we are having. So let us begin. Data and Go. You may be thinking, what has Go got to do with data that we are talking about today, right? So before we start that, right, we all understand what Go is, right? Right, Go is something that everybody know and recognize. It has a value, right? It is precious, right? It is limited in quantity. It's not an infinite resource, right? And everybody loves gold, right? I always have this saying, right? If diamonds are a girl's best friend, right? Then for me personally, I don't know about you, but for me personally, gold is my favorite. It's my BFF, right? Because gold has value attached to it. All right. So if you can see that in from Asian civilization, the archaeologists, they were gauging that it was something like 40,000 BCE, right? Ago, maybe in the era of the Egypt, where the prophets was building their momentums, right? They already was using gold, right? And up all the way until today, right? Gold has been it has been something that everybody recognize and understand that this is something of value, right? Even up to today, right? Now, what if I show you this picture, right? Let me just show you this picture. This picture. Does everybody recognize this picture? All right. Does anybody have 10 Bitcoin, right, in his pocket? All right. If you have, congratulations, you are half a millionaire. All right. So today, Bitcoin, it has become something of a value of, let's say, about $40,000 US, right? I was checking the price yesterday, right? 40,000 US. All right, can anybody tell me what is the intrinsic value of Bitcoin actually? What is the asset value? All right, there's nothing tied to it. It's a digital, something digital. I cannot see it, I cannot feel it. All right. But for gold, at least if I buy a physical gold, I can touch it, I can mold it to a jewelry or whatever. And guess what's the price of gold? What's the price of a gold today, right? 1 ounce is about 1,008 US dollars, versus one Bitcoin is 40,000 US dollars. If Elon Musk today tells you that they are able to resume payment of their Tesla vehicle, right, with Bitcoin, right, the Bitcoin soars again. Can you see that this is something, it's very ironical, but it's happening today, right, in the digital world, right? Now, look at all these little things, right? Look at all these icons that I show on the screen today. Do you recognize them? All right, they are your FANG's company. They are your Alibaba, your Tencent in China, right? So what do they have in common actually? All right, they bank on data. All right, they collect data from millions of people. All right, and And the way that they collect it, right, they use it to do some other things, right? Remember Cambridge Analytical, right? Remember and Financial, right? All these things, right? They are doing, they are mining all our data that we give them free every day, all right? Because we use their product, right? And that's why I say that in today's world, right? Actually, if I would say that, right, data is actually digital gold. All right, it has become a digital gold, and everybody is a mine, is a gold mine for every of these big boys to go after to mine your data. All right. So now let us put ourselves back to our own organization, right? How do I, make use of this data, right? The idea of having all this data, right, is that you could, we talk about digital transformation all along these many years, right? For many years, this was not a new term already. All right. But what is it about that we have to embark this digital journey? It gives us an edge over the competitors, right? You can't today in any of these decent company that you operate, right? You can't say that I just want to keep things as as per status quo right now for the next 20 years. I can tell you that within the 10 years, right, you will be out of the market. Right, because the competitors, they will be digitizing their process to make it more efficient, to mark up their profitability margins, and using all these kind of things with all the data that they can collect with their customers, with their vendors, with the whole organization. How do I make my process more efficient, right? And how do I make decisions, my business decision based on this data collected? All right. Data is just raw, it can be lying all over in the organization. You have to make sense out of it, right? Before you can, use this as a knowledge, right, to gain business advantages over your competitors. And this is what everybody is trying to achieve with digital transformation. All right. Now, but before you can actually embark on this, right, you have to realize that you have to have ways to capture all this data that's inside your organization. Now look at the past 20 years that or 30 years that human has invented a computer. It was even more. How much data is actually found on that we have amassed from these 30 years? It's actually quite a lot. And in the recent years, right, I think in the recent 10 years, we create even more data, right? That was actually more than what we create for the last 20 years. And the source of data is everywhere in every single kind of forms, right? So there must be a way to actually collect all this data efficiently, right? Whether it's a digital data, whether it lies on the paper, right? And in order for you to make good use of this data, right, it is actually a foundation that you have to have a very good concrete stand, right, to actually collect the data efficiently, right, and correctly, and then you are able to make correct decisions. All right. So let us take a look at this processing of data, right? It actually costs money to actually process all this data, right? Let's say we on the left hand side, right, you can see that these are the forms of input for data, right? It could be your digital, it could be your email, it could be some Word file, it could be coming from even a mobile phone, your mobile apps. But of course, commonly, it also comes in the form of paper, right? Paper in the organization. Today, no organization can say that I am fully paperless. That is still not so of a reality at this moment, right? Because even if you go fully paperless, right, your suppliers aren't fully paperless, right? So especially I found that when we talk to partners in Southeast Asia, right, they tell us that there's still a lot of paper going around. See, so processing data actually costs money, right? And it always involves running costs, and that in turn hits your profitability. Now, you look back to your own, your own organization, and you start to think of it, right? All right, which of your process, which of these pictures, reflect the state of your processes that you have to collect all this data in your organization. Is it an inefficient process while you have a very high running cost and that eats into your profit, your profits? All right, or you have an average efficient process, right? That you make a little money, you make a little of your a little money, right? But you still have a relatively high running cost, or you have a very highly efficient process. Um, you have a very highly efficient process, right? And your running cost is very low, and that helps to drive up your profits or margin. All right. So this is what we actually in Kodak Alaris does, right? We actually help people, with their digitization journey, right? With our, our portfolios of scanners, software, services, and our wide, partnership with a lot of technology partners. All right. So I will share with you, right, a few a few of these success case story that we have been working on. And throughout the presentation, you will find that actually these success cases, right, they come from all different kinds of segment. Now let us first take a look at this mail room with Kodak Alaris, right? This success story that we've done with this customer that is in France, right? So this is actually a banking customer, right? They quite a large French bank, right? They have about 20 specialized subsidiary under them, right? About 10,000 employees, customer base about 4.5 million, spreadsheet of balance sheet of about 135 billion euros, right? So what was their problem, right? They actually this before they actually embark on this digital transformation journey for them, right? They are already using their own some mail rooms solution that they have brought for many years ago, right? If you have the chance to actually go inside a mailroom of a bank, right, it is actually quite an experience, right? You will see a lot of compactors with a lot of records, you'll be amazed to find the way that they work, right, in process and the kind of information they process for the bank, for any of these big organizations, right? That is actually a lot of information that's coming in people, right? Whether it is a DHL delivery package, whether it is a report from the lawyer, or it is auditor report, or some kind of application form. There are a lot of paper to actually process for these banks, even up to today, right? If you have the opportunity, right, take a look at their mailroom. All right, okay. So for this customer, right, they have their mailroom process, and they use this for many years, and they start to realize that it was time to actually either renew the system, all right, or to actually buy a new one, or to embark on a new one, right? So what's the actual process does is that they have outsourced scannings, right? Their scanning is of two types, right? Internal scanning, outsourced scanning, right? And once these documents they come in, right, in the forms of like application form, credit card forms, or whatever, right? All this will have to be processed by their existing classification engines, right? Where they have to extract out the data from the forms, right? And that gets processed, right, by the systems and sent to the decision-making teams, right? Whether it's to approve a form, whether it's to submit a case for credit checks or whatever, right? So this will have to be made by these making teams, right? They cannot act without these documents being ingested into the system. And finally, when they make the decision, then they can get back to the customer. Now, what is the problem here, right? So the problem here is that you can see that, okay, when you have outsourced scanning, you actually cannot actually dictate what kind of process they actually embark. All right. So obviously, with so much incoming documents, right? There are always exceptionals when the system could not understand what kind of documents is actually being processed. All right. And once this happens, right, this has to be managed manually, right? Someone has to go inside the system manually to actually go and rectify all these issues, right? All these classification issues, maybe, click a few buttons, see what's the form, recognize it, and extract all the information. All right, so this obviously takes time, right? It slows down the process, right? And then finally, right, when it reaches the decision-making teams, they still have to take time to, check out the credit status, do some of their, their jobs before they can actually get back to the customer. So this is taking a very long time for this banking this customer. What's the worst thing here? All right. So you can see that because of all these existing problems, right, they also have, compliance issue, right, when the auditors come and check the thing, all right, because your data is handled in different ways, right, and it makes the enforcement of their business rules very difficult. And this was actually flagged as a risk for their data security. Now you may say that, oh, this is just a auditor thingy or whatever, right? But actually, this kind of data breaches is actually a very serious issue for banking industry. All right, if there's actually fraud or some kind of money laundering activities that was undetected, the bank could get into a very serious legal fights, legal case where they face a large amount of fines, right? You may say that maybe the fine is nothing to the banks, but there are more percussion, right? You might be restricted from handling certain kind of customers, or you might even lose your reputation. Nobody dares to actually bank their money with you. All right, so this is actually quite a serious problem. The biggest header of all is that they are really afraid of all these data breaches, right? Which can cause very serious problem for these banks, right? Okay, and the second largest problem, right, is the system itself. All right, so adding a new document type for this automatic classification system was very slow and expensive. All right, if you look at the way that we create data, as I said, the last 10 years we create many times of the data that we create last 20 years ago, right? That was all right. So there are so many different kind of documents type. Right? How do you actually classify them, extract them successfully? So many types of documents to understand. The system that was built many years ago, they don't have that capability to actually, to actually embark on this, right? So they find that adding a new document type, right, takes really, really a lot of time, a lot of effort, a lot of time waste, right? So let's take a look at the summary of their problems first, right? We take a look, right? Time, right? Time is money. I believe everybody, you agree with me, right? Time is money, right? The customer response was too long, right? Due to the levels of manual intervention required, right? Today a lot of banks, right, is a very competitive, market, right, for them. So everybody is trying to, loan you money, in fact. All right, okay. So they have to have a very fast response time for all these kind of things, right? Okay, so it was too manual, right? There was too much manual work involved, right? 50%, my God, 50% of the automation level was too low, right? And the manual intervention was required on 10 million, my friend, 10 million documents each year, and the cost for the manpower was significant. All right, of course, the cost that goes along with all this manual intervention, right, is per hour cost, OIT systems, from IT aspects, maintenance is also very high. All right. Of course, the last thing was the most headache one, the regulation, the regulative compliance, right? Some of this data actually bypass, from the centralized process, right? There's no enforcement of rules, all this kind of thing, and create some regulation compliance issue for the banks. So what was done with this customer? All right, what was the solution that we actually put forward for them? Right, let's take a look at the solution. All right, the very first thing was that we actually put in the new scanners for them. All right, the new scanner. Now, let me tell you that actually this is actually one of the very important steps for any of these, especially when it comes to capturing data from the paper. This is actually the most significant, most important steps of getting a right scanner, right? Okay, let me explain why. All right, for this customer, we actually put in the IBML, the speed monster, right? 730 page per minute scanner, right? And our i5850 sorter machines, right? Our sorter scanners that has the ability to sort documents, right? And a couple of i4000 series in some of their branches, right? So the thing is this, right? The first thing we realize is that, why one thing about this classification failing is also because of the quality of the image. All right. So we put in a good scanners, right, that can scan fast and produce a good image for them first, right? So for Kodak, we have a very wide portfolio of devices to satisfy just every single capturing needs for any customer. Let's take a look at these documents. Right? Imagine this is the document that we use to submit to the banks, right? Okay, so let me ask everybody, can you read this form, right? So you as a human say, hey, I can read it, no problem, it's just skewed a bit, right? Let me ensure you, right? Let me ensure you that the AI engine will have a great amount of difficulties trying to read something of this kind of skills. Right? This is because the AI engine cannot understand why the text was skewed, right? So what our scanner does is, right, they do a series of image enhancement, right, to these images to make it readable, right? Readable in a machine, to make it fantastic for the machine to read, right? So the first thing was we do readability, right? We deskew the image, right? So your data, right, becomes readability, it went up already, all right? But how about your size, right? I can give you a fantastic image, but your size is 1 megabyte per black and white image. What does it help you, right? The amount of storage that you need to invest in, especially when we are talking about cloud computing, right? Have you ever calculated the amount that was generated by the image size, right? Okay, so what do we do next, right? We do auto cropping, right? We crop away all those unnecessary image, right? So a lot of people, right, they say, hey, I can, scan the same thing with MFP. I can, because the MFP is lying in the company, it's lying in the office, nobody is using it, right? I can use it to do so, right? But the MFP cannot do all these skill auto crop functions for you, right? So by auto cropping the unnecessary, right, we take away all those unnecessary, data that was not needed for the data capture. Now, next thing is we try to do a auto brightness, right? We try to make if let's say it's a very light document, we try to make the thing, for the human to actually see the documents also, to make it a bit bright. Next thing, noise reduction. So imagine this is a coffee stain, right? Imagine this is a coffee stain and you have something right here, your spot code, right? Okay, so we are able, our machines is able to do all this noise reduction to actually remove it, or to make your data still readable under this mark here, right? So your data readability has increased, right? So it makes processing this data even easier, right? But your image size has also reduced, all right? Next thing, what do? We do a sharpening for we make the fonts, sharpen, right? And we do color dropout, right? If you know what color dropout is, right? It's like dropping out the color so that you can do your extraction even more accurately. Last time when we go for exams, we have to shade those dots, all this kind of thing, and all that answer sheets is in a certain color, red, blue, green, or whatever, right? So this is the purpose of the color dropout, right? It is to help the extraction, the OMR rates, the extraction in the data to be even more accurate and to make sure that there's nothing that's obstructing the readability rate, right? So with that, right, you have the maximum data readability, but a small image size to compare, right? So what are the benefits of having a good image quality, right? Of course, the immediate benefit is your OCR extraction, your IMR your IMR, your character reading, all these, they will increase, right? And the downstream, what about the downstream benefits, right? If let's say you have a back process, the AI engine is going to read the image that's being scanned out, right? Of course, the extraction rate, the way is going to increase, and in that returns, right, increase the accuracy of the AI engine, right? Of course, long-term benefits is you reduce the process time, you reduce your customers' attrition rates, right? And you reduce the process cost in all these, right? And all this will benefit the bottom line, right? We're trying to squeeze out more from it. And for the Kodak scanners, right, we have up to about 20%. Personally, I feel that it's even more, right? Up to 20% better OCR readability rate. Now, 20%, you might say that nothing fantastic, right? But 20% times a large amount, that is quite significant. So on the software portion, what do we put in, right? We put in our info input solution, because one thing that the customer reflects that, hey, I'm having, my image, right? I'm getting, this paper form, right? Coming from many sources. If you look at your left-hand side, right, your scanner, your MFP, your email, or it could be a digital image that I throw inside a watch folder, right? It could be from the mobile, it could be from a business system, or it could even be from the PC that the person is working on. I need to have a central way of getting these documents, right, into the system first. All right, get them into the system so that I can move on, right, with it, right? So everybody has to throw their things into this. If not, it will not get processed. All right. So what we do is we put our info input solution, right, very powerful web capturing application, right, to actually take in all these kind of input first, right? Get them all into the system, right? Whatever attachment, your emails, your attachment or whatever, get them in first. All right. Then next we use Effisoft Transact, right? We push this data that we get, right, from all over the place, right, to Effisoft Transact, right? This is where Effisoft Transact, right, they actually do all the the form classification, the extraction, all the machine learning that the customer has everyone, so that they can do less and less manual work in the future, right? Once the Effisoft Transact, right, they start to process all these things. So the mailroom today is significantly different, right? I don't care whether it's an outsourced scanning or it's an internal scanning or whatever. All right, all these will have to go through the software flow, right? The software flow from the info input first get submitted, right? Then go through the classification engine, which is the Effisoft Transact, right? And there is significantly less exceptional, right? Sometimes once in a while, some of these documents, for some reason, right, we cannot understand it, right? Or there was some classification loss or whatever. All right. So this is still being handled manually today, all right, by an operator. But of course, it takes a lot faster. There's not so much of the cost involved to actually classify these things anymore. All right. So of course, this in fact speed up the decision making. All right, the decision making teams, right? The information that flow the decision making teams is faster today, right? Much faster. All right. Then from there they can get back to the customer, right? So what was the result? You may say, what was the result of this, right? So of course, the first thing is improve image quality, right? Scanners from our scanners, right? You can see that this is actually a bit crumpled. Okay, I can do worse. Okay, our scanner can do worse than that, right? You can crumple a piece of paper, then you scan it through, and you still have something like that. It doesn't look like, it's crumpled piece because of the unique technology that we use in our scanners, the perfect page. All right, that helps to actually do the image manipulation, right, enhancement first, right, before your software actually process the image. All right, so this reduces a lot of rescans. Don't think that rescan takes very little time. Rescan can be quite irritating. Sometimes you can make mistakes along the way, and you want to reduce the rescan, because this is like doing double work, right, for the same thing. Right, so data entry is also much faster now, right? Okay, you have the software to actually tag along with new requirements from this customer, right? They want to have, the automation, level being increased. Now the automation level is increased to about 85%, significantly from 35. Sorry, significantly from 50%, right? 50 to 85. 50%, 10 million was 50%. So how much was that? You make a calculation, right? Okay. Next thing, reduce the server requirements and its associated costs. Right? Of course, with the new system, you are not so taxing, to the system. You use a lot less resource, or you can move it up to the cloud. In fact, you can move it up to the cloud. All right, and reduce by 60%, right? And more automation means that there's less human resource requirement. So remember the picture where they need to employ or they need to deploy their staff, right, to do the manual intervention, 50% or 10 million documents, right? So right now, right, they are able to move more people, right? Instead of they have to get new head count, they are able to move 35% from this kind of job, right, and shift it to the decision making team. All right, so that means that you have more people doing the decision making, and it is a lot more faster to react to the customer. All right, so they, instead of having to employ new folks or retrain someone to double head, triple head on this kind of job roles, right, they have actually moved the people up to relocate to the decision making team, in fact, right? More value added jobs. So in summary, right, the total response time has improved. All right, the customer response time and the impact segregation and the retention rates have also improved, right? Of course, you want to see your automation level, right? After you invest so much money, all right, you want to see your automation level, increase. Because there's machine learning, right? It has reduced the time taken to actually template the documents. All right, with a higher automation level cost, the amount of man hours, right, required has dropped. Server costs has significantly reduced. All these are actually costs that a lot of people overlook when they do digital transformation. They only look at the big picture, the software that's used, all this big picture, but they didn't actually go into the, man hour, the kind of manpower or man hours that you can save. They don't pay a lot of attention on that, right? Of course, the last thing was to actually be regulative compliance. That is actually the ultimate aim. All right, to make sure that there's nothing funny going on, or no unturned rocks that they have actually that will cause the bank any serious problems in terms of regulations and compliance, right? So this the second this second healthcare case, right, has something to do with COVID, right? This customer was, or this partner that's working with us, right? They are actually very active in healthcare, right? Let me explain through a few slides, right? All right, this partner, right, that has been with us, right? They are an integrated medical DMS health information solution company. That means they provide the DMS, right, and their health solutions to the medical segment. All right, they offer what they call medical transcription and coding. That means, let's say, for example, all right, they help to do some of the paperwork for the hospitals, and of course, in return, they get paid for it, right? They also do a lot of consulting, education, and data analytics services for these, these hospitals, right? And their client, of course, they include all those academical facilities, integrated health delivery networks, community hospitals, right? And they provide on-site resource. That means they send their own workers, right, to the hospitals, right, to the hospitals to do all these kind of medical, to provide all these kind of medical services. So when COVID strikes in 2019, right, for these partners, right, they could not send their staff to the hospitals. All right, because for when in the beginning stage, right, if everybody could remember, right, all those non-essential medical staff, right, most of the governments, right, they actually say that, okay, if you're a non-essential medical staff, right, do not, appear in the hospital. All right, so this impact the hospital eventually, right? You may say, why, without that, right, we can still go on, right? Okay, so this is the flow, right? If a patient is receiving treatment from the hospitals, all these efforts and all these have to be coded, and they call it the medical coding. And this staff, right, they actually have specialized skill to actually do this coding. They can understand what, all this file is all about, how to key them into the system, right? And the hospital relies on this medical coding to be done, in time so that they get paid for their medical service. Now, if let's say they cannot appear in the hospitals, right, how are they going to do that, right? How are they going to do all this coding for you? But they are non-essential to the government, is that they are non-essential medical services. So they should not be there and risk being infected, right? So this is painful for both the customer and the for their hospitals, right? So in a very short while, all right, and I think the actual implementation was just done within like 3 weeks or 4 weeks, I can't remember, right? So what happened was that this partner, right, they actually saw info input somewhere, right? Then they say, oh, let me just, maybe I can use this to deploy. So what do they do, right? So actually they actually go and deploy the scanners into the hospital. Now, before that, there was no scanner. There was the medical staff, right? They do not need to do scanner, right? The medical coder do not need to do scanning, right? So what do they do? Okay, put in scanner in the hospital. All right, ask the hospital staff, hey, at the end of the day, scan in the record. You just need to press one button, scan, finish. All right. So what do? They send this information to the central server, a web server, right, provided by the partner. All right. So the partner say, hey, send everything to here. My medical coders, right, book from their home. Access the server, log in, do the medical coding, so that the systems, right, because they design the whole system, right, the whole system, the flow continues. All right, so the hospital, because of the medical coding, right, they get done, right, so they also get paid. So in return for the partner, they also get paid for the services. So there's continuity in the pandemic situation. You may say, okay, so what's so fantastic, right, about this, right? If you think further, right, can anybody tell me when this pandemic is going to, be when life is going to get back to normal? My personal estimation is probably it will take some time, it will not take some time. Then who knows? Maybe touch wood, touch wood. I'm not saying I'm praying for it, right? But who knows when the next pandemic will strike again? All right, but because of the the technologies that we have, and the way that the customers or the partners is able to work from there, and change the way of working so that things still continue to move on. All right, this is the part that that's amazing about this project. The buzzword for today, the buzzword or the buzz technology that we have: AI, artificial intelligence, RPA solutions, right? Robotics, processor, right? So these are wonderful technologies, right? And in order for these technologies to work properly, right, the digital input, right, for them must be of good quality inputs. So this is something that we did in Japan for we actually classified under the government, right, for the rice producer. So there's this rice producer committee, right, where they actually the rice producers, right, they will they will submit their rice invoices, or the rice that they produce to this cooperative, right? This cooperative will take them, buy in the thing, then they sell to the consumer, right, in Japan, right? So before that was that, wow, they have a lot of problem with all these with all these inputs, right? Because the way that the input of these paper documents are, these invoices, right, they are all wet, because the farmer, right, they themselves, they work in the field, right? And when they touch the invoices, of course, it's of all sorts of the X processes for them is that is very slow, right? So for them is that I remember for this case, right, what was even deployed to help them, right, was that we implement a heater. Heat up the thing first, right? We heat up the invoices before we actually, scan it, deploy our scanner, scan it, and go through an RPA process, right? Where the RPA process pick up the information and it starts to, send to the system. So from there, right, for this customer, right, they actually feedback that the order increased by about 20%, and the customer satisfaction has also increased. They're able to actually retrain their workers, right? We see from video, right, that they actually, they're able to retrain their user. All right. This construction, we actually deploy what we call the infuse solution, right? It's a slightly different scanning solution, right? The thing is that for these construction sites, right, they actually have a lot of invoices to process because they buy by blanket, right? What do, right? They collect the thing at the end of the day or at the end of the month, then they send to a central site to scan. So what happens? You lost something, you lost an invoice or whatever, all this kind of stuff. So the payment was, the AP process was a pain. What do? All right. What do is we put in our infuse scanner. Hey, scan directly once you get the AP process. Go through the system, right? Immediately process the invoices into the ERP. So instead of waiting for months, right, and for things to happen, we cut short the process. Right, we cut short the process and we make sure that the thing is processed successfully. So you can see that digital transformation for Kodak Alaris, there are challenges, right? There are challenges, and we are able to provide a solution, right, to you guys, whether it's different. The system that was set up, right, from the showcase was all different. They are all for different solutions, all of different scanners, right? But the result is this: we want to have a speed, we want to have accuracy, we want to increase our profitability, our baseline, right? Our profitability baseline, right? And the last thing is, I must say, is that using the right tools for the job will do more for your productivity. They're hacking tools to do jobs. That they are not designed to, right? For example, some of them, they say, hey, I got MFP, but MFP is not done, it's actually for casual scanning, it's not for serious scanning. All right, don't be, a lot of people will say, hey, I want to, brand A of scanner is cheaper. I buy brand A, right? Don't be penny wise, pound foolish. Where your data that was produced by this brand A, right, it cannot be used by your further process. Then what's the point? All right, what's the point? All right. So with that, I end my presentation with these words: that digital transformation drives multiple benefits for organizations all over the world. It's time to pick yours. It's time to pick your tools. All right. It's time to mine the gold mine of your company. Thank you.